Hi, this is David Brown, and I am with the Hill Cumorah Expedition Team. This particular presentation, presentation number 11, is on the Throne of David illustrated at Palenque. This is built upon our understanding of the impact of the marriage of Mosiah, who is from the tribe of Joseph, and we believe specifically through Manasseh, and his wife, Lady Cook, who's the daughter of Zarahemla. This is something we don't have in the Book of Mormon, but the archaeology tells us that this took place, and the impact of that marriage is seen in various sites throughout the Maya culture. The understanding that Lady Cook, or the wife of Mosiah, the daughter of Zarahemla, is of the Jewish throne, and that would be Jewish lineage, tells us that in the Americas, the throne of David, the northern and southern kingdom, was brought back together. That being the case, it is the birthright of Joseph, the tribe of Joseph. He has the greater spiritual knowledge and the spiritual blessings. You have the birth or the scepter and lawgiver that is promised to the tribe of Judah. Well, here they are combined, and we believe there are specific messages given at Palenque that talk about the unification of that particular throne and its importance to the Christ message. The next presentation, number 12, is going to be specifically the Christ testimony, but this is laying the foundation for why the royalty aspect, the Davidic throne aspect, is important. So, this particular presentation is focusing on the evidences that we find concerning that throne and why it's important to the Christ message. The work of Linda Sheely reveals that the royalty of Palenque draw their claim to authenticity from their close relatives who ruled in Yaxchilán, which we have identified as the city of Zarahemla. The Palenque god G1 is the seventh generation from the first Itzamnaj, who we have identified as the Book of Mormon character known as King Mosiah the Elder. This is the one who came down out of the highlands. He came down from the city of Nephi into Zarahemla. His name in Maya is Itzamnaj Balaam II, or what we believe is the first Itzamnaj, and the first ruler of the unified Davidic throne. Again, this is the unification of the northern and southern kingdom. Temple 17 chronicles the relationship of Shield Jaguar II, who is Itzamnaj Balaam, who is Mosiah the Elder, in his efforts to initiate influence over the people of Palenque. We assert that Shield Jaguar II was King Mosiah the Elder, who was appointed king over the Mulekites and Nephites. This is the result of the marriage to the daughter of Zarahemla. This implies that Bountiful was a Mulekite city and that Shield Jaguar II became king over them. So here we see the beginnings of the influence of the Davidic throne coming into Bountiful. Therefore, the royalty at Palenque, which we believe is Bountiful, is from the same unified throne of David. In Book of Mormon terms, the seventh person from the first Itzamnaj, Mosiah the Elder, is Nephi, the missionary, who, with his brother Lehi, converted the Lamanites at the city of Nephi. So, how do I make that connection? Here is the list of the consecrated holders of the sacred record from Mosiah to Nephi. So Mosiah the elder, he had them with him when he came down into the land of Zarahemla. It passed to his son Benjamin, which then passed to his son Mosiah the younger, which then passed to Alma too, as at the time he was chief judge and high priest. And it went to his son Helaman, and then to his other son Shiblon, and then it went back to the son Helaman, the son of Helaman, and then to his son Nephi, whose brother was Lehi, and the two of them had gone up and done a lot of missionary work, converted a lot of Lamanites. But the point is, the seventh generation from the first one. So that goes Benjamin, Mosiah, Alma, Helaman, Shiblon, Helaman, and then Nephi. There comes a point where three known characters of the Book of Mormon seem to drop out of the storyline. Nephi hands the records over to his son Nephi, and he is never heard from again. The same is true of his brother Lehi and Samuel the Lamanite. They also drop out of the story, and we don't hear from them again. We believe that Nephi, his brother Lehi, and Samuel the Lamanite are the three wise men. In a coming presentation, we will demonstrate where they are recorded here in Palenque and why we believe these Book of Mormon characters are the wise men. They were commissioned to take this throne to the Christ child and confer upon him the right to rule over Israel. There comes a point in the Book of Mormon where that throne is established with under a kingship, and that's Mosiah the elder. It goes to his son Benjamin. Then it goes to Mosiah the younger. And then Mosiah is not able to convince his sons that they need to sit on the throne. He cannot get them to accept it. So it has to go back to Judges. I say back to Judges because it was originally in Israel, they had judges until the people clamored for a king. And then the Lord said, okay, you want a king? I'll give you a king. And so then it goes to kings. Well, now we have the reverse happening. Now things are going back to the way that they were originally established with the Israelites. It's going from kingships back to judges. And the right to appoint a king or to confer kingship is with the sacred leader. It goes through the high priests, and they are the ones who consecrate and confer kingship. So, therefore, it goes to judges, but the right to confer kingship goes with the sacred leaders. And therefore, it is the high priest, it is Nephi, who has the right then to confer kingship. Let us consider why this throne of David lineage is so important. The right to rule Israel originated in Jacob's blessing to his son Judah. This comes out of the 49th chapter of Genesis. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Jesus is Shiloh. And unto Shiloh, Jesus, shall the gathering of the people be. Binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. But the lineage for royalty through Judah was immediately split when his first male offspring were twins, Pharez and Zerah. We've gone over this, but here it is again, Genesis 38. And it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed that one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This came out first. And it came to pass as he drew back his hand that, behold, his brother came out. And she said, How hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. Therefore his name was called Pharez. And afterward came out his brother, that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah. Zerah is the name of the child born to Judah who had a scarlet thread or red thread tied around his hand. This infers that King Zedekiah, the father of Mulek, was a descendant of Zerah, or in some fashion a descendant of Zerah happens in this king line. It is the reason that the Mulekite king line included King Zarahemla, which in Hebrew means seed of sadness. Zerah is the head of the scarlet thread seed or household. Therefore, the Mulekite claim to Jewish kingship is through the scarlet thread, or in Mayan terms, it comes through the red house. And we see the red house glyph found prolifically throughout Maya glyphs in Mesoamerica. This is a picture of a wall, and this is in Uxmal. It is a hallway, and there are red hands all over on the upper side. We found red hands in gateways to Sakbes at Kaaba. There's just, you find them a lot of places. And we believe that it is making a reference to the red house and the lineage that comes through Zerah in some form or fashion, the scarlet thread. Most of the Jewish kings came through the lineage of Pharez. In fact, at the opening of the New Testament, Matthew recites the genetic lineage from Abraham to Jesus, and it comes through the house of Pharez, the literal firstborn. However, that is half of the throne. Zerah represents the other half. The conferral of the Zedekiah portion of the throne on the baby Jesus heals the breach represented by Pharez, since Christ already bears legitimacy through genetics. So Christ already had the lineage, the genetic lineage, through Pharez. But with Christ, not only is it important to confer upon him the throne, but that there will be no complaint, then the Zerah portion that is his birthright should also be conferred. And we believe that somehow that took place here. And there are other promises given concerning who will sit on this throne, the Davidic throne. In the following scripture, the prophet Nathan is giving a message to David as God's promise that his throne would be established forever. This comes from 2 Samuel. And when thy days shall be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. And thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. This is God's promise to David, that there will be one who comes after him, who's going to build a temple, and then that kingdom, that temple building kingdom, will be established forever. The only way that that can be done forever is if one who is an eternal being is set upon that throne, which means when these people in the Americas realized the importance, the gravity, the weight of what needed to happen, they knew they had to take a journey and confer upon this Christ child all of he being Shiloh and being the rightful heir to sit upon the throne, they had to give that to him. It is promised that Christ will sit upon this throne of David. That's the only way it can be an eternal kingdom forever. David was the first Israelite king to unite all of Israel into one kingdom. The implication is that the throne upon which Christ sits will bear the same legacy. Now, we will review the Palenque structures that deal with this royal concept. Again, here is Palenque, and we're going to focus on, again, certain structures that we find on the plaza, the main plaza, the Temple of the Red Queen. This particular temple is shorter. There are 3 burial chambers inside of this temple, the main one of which is the Red Queen herself. She is buried in a sarcophagus-like burial, and she is covered in red ochre, which indicating, we believe, it's indicating her royal lineage. So we believe that this was done in effigy to tell the story of these people and their royal connection to the Christ testimony that we're going to see. We believe that she's buried here in effigy of the daughter of Zarahemla. She's representing the Jewish throne here in the Americas. Right next to her, built off that same platform, you see a little bit to the right, a lower temple. That lower temple is the Temple of the Red Queen. Right next to it is the Temple of the Inscriptions. Large, grand. Oh, by the way, there are 10 levels. If you include the temple structure up at the top that has the 5 doorways, it has 10 levels. You go inside, and down in the pyramid itself is this sarcophagus, which is the sarcophagus burial of Pakal, the king. On the outside of that sarcophagus are carved what they believe to be his relatives. There's 2 on the end, there's 3 on the side, there's 2 on the other end, and there's 3 on the other side, for a total of 10. The archaeologists and epigraphers believe that the 2 on each end are the parental relatives of Pakal. But we believe that it's actually alluding to the fact that he is a member of the 10 tribes. He's a member of the house of Joseph, or the tribes of Joseph, that are represented in the northern kingdom, the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Why do we believe that? Because these are all illustrated as cacao plants, but they all come out of the same level. If you notice that these look to be planted, and then from the torso up, they're all illustrated as people. Well, the soil that they're planted in is equal all the way around. They are all being born out of the same level of lineage. It's not one above another. These are all brothers. And so we believe that it's illustrating the fact that he is a member of the 10 tribes. This is the sarcophagus lid. It's famous throughout the world. You see that on top of him sits the world tree. And in other words, Pakal is setting at the foundation of the world tree. And the kingly Quetzalbird is at the top of the world tree. And we believe that Pakal is representing the fact that the right to rule, or the royalty, is the foundation of the establishment of that world tree, or that's called the world tree. We believe it's the tree of life. It's the axis of earth to heaven. It is what Christ established to connect us to God. This is Pakal. The interesting thing about his burial, he was also covered in red ochre. Again, an allusion to his royalty connection. And he had in his right hand a jade cube, and in his left hand a jade sphere. The cube, we've already talked about the cube of space. And we're going to see that illustrated and alluded to in many places. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him, but his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by the God of the Father who shall help thee, and by the Almighty who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of him, of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. We believe that that's part of the reason why that structure is so grand. It goes back to the fact that the blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors to the utmost bounds of the everlasting hills. The greater thing is laid upon Joseph, and therefore his structure that's representing him is taller. We believe that Pakal and his wife were buried in effigy of Mosiah and the daughter of Zarahemla. I'm not implying that Mosiah and his wife are buried here. I believe that they were most likely buried in Yashitlan, which we believe is Zarahemla. I am implying that Pakal and his wife were buried in Palenque in effigy of Mosiah and his wife, so that the story of their lineage would demonstrate the authenticity of the Israeli royal line. The importance being that they're stating at Palenque, here in the Americas, the northern and southern kingdoms of Israel were reunited. And this plays an important part in the Christ message. The royals in the Americas understood the gravity of what they represented as the united throne of David, and they knew the importance of what they needed to do. They were caretakers, placeholders for the one who was worthy to rule over all of Israel. Therefore, It was their sacred duty to relinquish this throne to the Messiah when he arrived. I believe that the people of Palenque went to great lengths to convey the entirety of their story. As it turns out, the royal lineage of the throne of David was a vital part of the New World testimony to the authenticity of the risen Christ. And by authenticity, what I mean is that he was a king of Israel. The establishment of the throne of David in the New World and the need to symbolically relinquish this throne to the one who was worthy became the motivation for the three wise men. They were commissioned by their faith as ministers of the gospel and by their sacred duties as high priest to confer the throne upon the Christ child. They knew that Christ was the only one worthy to sit upon the throne. They knew that Christ was the elder brother, the only one who truly deserved to bear the mantle of the priesthood. And all this, we believe, was relinquished, handed over to Christ when the wise men visited him. This is the plaza in Palenque. And here at Palenque is the palace we're showing. This is what it looks like from the side. But even in the design of the palace, we believe that there are clues that this took place. What palace has two inner courtyards? Why would there be two inner courtyards? We believe that the design of the palace illustrates the message they wanted to convey. The two courtyards indicate the blending of the two thrones into one structure. Here is one courtyard that is the smaller one. Here is the other courtyard that is the larger one. I submit that the smaller one is representing the kingship of Judah, the southern kingdom, and the larger one is representing Joseph, which is the northern kingdom. They put these two here because they have unified these two kingdoms, and that's why these two courtyards are built in one structure at Palenque. This motivation to unify the Davidic kingdom in preparation for the coming of Christ provided a culture for the gospel to flourish. Remember, when Mosiah established the church in Zarahemla, and how the gospel flourished at that point. It became the point from which it went out throughout all of the Mesoamerican region. We believe this is represented by the tower built on the south side of the palace. The tower symbolizes humanity's effort to establish the axis from earth to heaven, and the three levels allude to the glories of heaven. So, here, right, because these two, here's the relationship architecturally. Because Judah and Joseph are now unified in a structure, now the gospel can flourish. And this tower that is unique in all of architecture in the Americas is set up. And not only is it illustrating, we believe, the three glories that are promised with this axis of earth to heaven, but it also alludes to the challenge that we believe Mosiah took on. Prepare the table, watch in the watchtower, eat, drink, arise, ye princes, and anoint the shield. For thus hath the Lord said unto me, Go, set a watchman, let him declare what he seeth. It is part of the tower that it's erected in Palenque is representing the fact that they set a watchtower. They were looking for the coming of Jesus. They combined the two thrones into one throne, into one unified Davidic throne, and they set the watchtower to look for the coming of Jesus. The concept of the two kingdoms joining into one is again illustrated in the tunnels on the south side of the palace, where two thrones are found in two different areas. In fact, they would be in two different tunnels, except that a wall was constructed and then a hole knocked through to expose the second throne in the same tunnel. We speculate that this alludes to the Mulekite and Nephite kingdoms that developed separately until a wall was knocked down and they discovered each other. Right close to the tower, there is a stairwell that goes down into the tunnel. And here's one of the thrones that's put there in the tunnel. You go around a couple of corners, and here is the other throne. And notice where the wall was put up and it has been knocked down. We believe that it's metaphoric, that these two thrones were hidden underground. No one knew about them, but they finally became unified and part of the same throne. Up above, you have the two the two courtyards that are unified in the same structure, and here you have two thrones that are unified in the same tunnel. The red ochre-covered skeletons at Palenque, and also found throughout Maya lands, are speaking to their Zerah heritage, but also to the blood of the Christ who now covers them in death. This further highlights why the term red house is found prolifically through the classical Mayan glyphs. Christ had the genetic right to rule through his Pharez lineage, but having the lineage alone does not grant him the right to rule over Israel. Many people have the right of genetic pedigree, but the right to rule is done by conferral from one who is authorized to assign a successor. The Davidic throne being conferred on the Christ through the journey of the wise men is so important to the fulfillment of many prophecies concerning the Messiah. Note, it was not necessary for this conferral to validate Christ as the Son of God. It was necessary for those who had been charged with keeping the throne to relinquish it to one who was worthy to sit upon it. Jesus was Shiloh, the one who was worthy to sit upon the throne and rule over Israel. Therefore, the unified throne of Israel, carried through high priest Nephi, was conferred on the Christ child at his birth. This throne was relinquished to Jesus, and we will see that he also became the high priest over Israel, as the high priesthood was conferred on him as well. This is the reason why the Book of Mormon information concerning the throne of David lineage is so important, and even that is not spelled out. Even that had to be validated by the truth coming forth out of the earth through the archaeology. But when we put the message of the Book of Mormon with the truth from the archaeology, now all kinds of things are filling out. It chronicles the fact that Jesus had the right to rule over Israel and to act as our high priest when he offered up the perfect sacrifice on the mercy seat. Again, this presentation is one that's done in the spirit of building an argument. And even though we don't find anywhere that states this outright, it is not out of bounds to look at what is inferred in what we do understand. There may come a point where there is a better understanding of how to translate the Mayan glyphs, or a new temple is discovered and here's the one place where all of these things are stated. Who knows? But the point is the inferences that the three wise men, which we're going to see the panel that displays that, and their gifts, and we're going to see holding in their hands what the gifts are, were so important for humanity to do. What the three wise men did was they relinquished the throne of David and the priesthood to Jesus and said, you are the one who is worthy for these things. Worthy is the Lamb. And they had to be conferred upon him for there to be legitimacy for what Christ was about to do throughout all of humanity. And we're going to see that displayed on a panel in presentation number 12. So I hope that you'll be with us and look forward to the Christ message that is at Palenque, which we believe to be bountiful. Thank you.